5 years ago, I was 30 stone. I was, obviously very close to the end, I could tell. I mean, I woke up one morning once and the ligaments in both my feet had gone. I couldn't walk, I couldn't get out of bed, and had a heart attack when I was 21. Basically figured it was game over.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, hosted by Chrissy Van. Together, we're uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. On today's episode, we're thrilled to have Jonathan Lundy joining us from the UK. Jonathan is the founder and CEO of Gymfluencers and Gymfluencers Agency. At All Things Fitness and Wellness, we're dedicated to uncovering the inspiring stories behind success in the fitness and wellness industry. You see, nearly everyone in this field has a personal connection or a pivotal moment that transformed their lives. My encounter with Jonathan was sparked by his remarkable courage to share his journey. A LinkedIn post of his caught my attention, where he candidly explained why, despite his growing business success, he had chosen to remain hidden. He had struggled with the fear of being perceived as the overweight guy behind a fitness company. This episode tells a story of transformation and unwavering determination. We'll explore how Jonathan, trapped in a job he despised within a predatory industry, weighing 420 pounds and having a heart attack at just 21, felt as though his life was slipping away. But with the unwavering support of his family, he made the decision to change. He quit his job, shed the weight equivalent of half his former self, and harnessed his marketing expertise to elevate the fitness industry, which played a significant role in his own remarkable transformation. Before we get to the episode, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcasts weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. Plus, we're continuing our gym and wellness haven tours with inspiring founder stories. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. Gymfluencers, first of all, excellent name.
Thank you.
And I'm curious because when we talk to fitness influencers, especially from an industry perspective, you kind of get two sides of the coin. There's a lot of gym owners that tend to feel frustrated sometimes because they have other clientele that are complaining that someone's taking a photo and there's video cameras, and we always see those memes going around. And then there's the complete other side of the coin that truthfully I feel gets it. Your users are the best ambassadors for delivering the message because they are the ones that are already embracing the power of movement. They are already the ones that have experienced the change of their lives. So talk to me a little bit about how Gymfluencers was born, because if I understand correctly, it wasn't always necessarily connecting influencers to product.
No, so it's actually funny what you said there is exactly what Gymfluencers was. So my background is never went to the gym, never trained, went through my whole kind of, world of change and transformations. And whilst I was in the gyms, I kept seeing all these people kind of like filming themselves, taking selfies, tagging the gym sharing it to story. And I thought, well, that's awesome because it's kind of like, I'm in the gym, I feel great, I'm going to take a picture. And then the gym shares it. And that's great because they've got someone in the gym who someone might want to go in that gym. And then I sort of stood there, I think on the treadmill one night, and I thought, well, what if that person who shared the photo had a referral link for the gym and basically said, do you want a free day pass? Do you want a membership for 20% off? And then they got a commission for it as well. Then more people would post, and more people would post, more people would go to the gym. There'd be a clear way to sign up. Everyone would get a discount, commission, and the gym would get a new member. And that was the idea. And then COVID hit. And then I kept going with that, and that was kind of like the premises, built this huge kind of like affiliate network because none of these gyms had affiliate network. So it wasn't like I could just get a link off them and a code. I had to literally build it as a third party for everyone to join. But then after COVID, everyone just kept shutting down. It was kind of like a race to the bottom with memberships where the gym would be £50 a month, and then all of a sudden they were £30 a month and you get free headphones. And then the gym was this and you get 10 free. And I was just thinking, well, this is just me. There's no way I can keep up with these changes and edits. And all of that. So I just had to kind of scrap that idea. And then from there, the website gymfluencers.com was born because people had a real need for news reviews and discount codes. And that's still going. And that's kind of like the bit I'm proudest of. And then from there, speaking to brands saying, well, we worked with an influencer and they ghosted us, or they deleted the post. And then I was speaking to all these influencers and athletes saying, the brand ghosted us and they, changed the sort of, they moved the goalposts and they wanted this. And I'm sort of sat in the middle thinking, I've got 1,000 brand partners as an affiliate. I've got access to pretty much unlimited amounts of profiles. What if I just create an agency where everybody gets what they want? And that's kind of how Gymfluencers agency was born.
What was your background? Because when you're describing even that first evolution, that's a lot of legwork. And was that your primary income at that time? Or, I mean, was there even revenue at that time? That's a lot of legwork.
I only started monetizing last March. So
Incredible.
For a good year or so before then, building and kind of, doing, just living off what I kind of had and investing every spare bit of money I had kind of into it. My background before this was marketing in the online casino worlds. So very kind of like predatory business, which I never enjoyed. I kind of just got stuck in it. And 10 years later, your life goes by and you think, well, why the hell am I doing this? Mm-hmm. And then before then, I had an eBay business when I was 15 until I was 18, and then did a few other little bits in between. But kind of, it's always been sales and marketing, I think, at heart, just in different worlds.
When you came to that realization you wanted to make the change, talk to me about that, because that's something I can relate to. And I think a lot of people reach that pinnacle moment, but making the decision, that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, and it was a crazy big decision, because so the big thing that should have stopped me from ever leaving that old career was I met my fiance, and I've got a teenage stepdaughter who I'm responsible for. And that wasn't the time to leave a job, but I did it still, and we made it work. And luckily, she had my back and kind of understood what I had to do. And my old job was very, very stressful, very difficult. 24 hours a day. If you were the only person who could push a specific button or get access to a specific account or whatever it might be, and obviously lots of money involved in casino world, other people's money being involved. It just wasn't fun, and I just kind of figured it was now or never. I'd either end up not a nice person, probably in a grave young, and the money was good, but there's a lot more to it. And obviously my lifestyle changed a hell of a lot from when I started in that business to now where I am in this business.
Good for you. It's so fascinating when we're in those situations too, and you notice parts of yourself that don't feel like yourself. Like you could become more cynical. Your whole lens can get distorted, and it's that discomfort. Some people marry that. Sometimes it's the paycheck that they marry, and I get it. Like security, especially like we look at today's economy, and I'm certainly not discounting the magnitude of that decision because life is expensive for everyone around the globe. But what comes on the other side of that perseverance can be quite grand. So you all of a sudden make that transition, you're making these connections. And again, it's just you having to go out and generate these affiliates. So when COVID hit, obviously we know it was so hard for the industry, but as somebody that's now quit their career and put everything into this business, talk to me through that pinnacle shift, because I'm sure between that and then your pivot in the direction that you did go, there was probably a lot of food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the gym referral idea with Gymfluencers, I mentioned that we now stopped. I think I sent 16,500 emails in the first few months manually myself. Not like I didn't want to ever do like a cold outreach. I didn't want to do like a mass mailer spam. I didn't want to put it through a software. I was going to gym owners who were anyone from somebody who does it on their own in a small gym in the middle of nowhere in England to gym chains. And I kind of felt like if I went at them with this idea where I was like, by the way, I want 40% discount on your memberships. 20% is going to go to commission to the influencer, 20% saving to the other people. And by the way, I'm not going to make anything.
And did they say, I'm sorry, why? Or were they like, yes, let's do that?
No, less than 0.1% wanted to do it. They didn't understand why or how, and then how it would work and what it was. And it was funny because we did get it off the ground. there was on day one, I think there was like 6 memberships that sold, and they were year-long memberships that we did. And it was, the coaches who signed people up, and I was like, well, these people are making money. The gyms have just got 60% of a year's full membership paid in a day. It worked really well, but for it to be profitable for me and for it to kind of grow, there just need to be so many more gyms, so much more money piled into this. Like, huge respect for the class passes of the world and these huge companies who have made that work. And I think looking back, the huge difference was they had so much investment. They had literally, I was looking like 10, 20, 30, 40 million. And they had teams and softwares.
Yeah,
and
they're behemoths, not just one individual trying to.
Yeah. And, I'm proud of it because it was very cool.
Should be.
Literally, someone got 20% off a year's membership. The coach got 20% off that amount, and the gym got paid in a day. It was all done in a day. And I kind of thought, well, that is such a helpful thing to everyone, but it just wasn't manageable. But the cool thing is, I still do have all that technology and thing. So maybe if I get 10, 20 million one day, I'll turn it back on.
Right? You just laid the foundation. So when all of a sudden that shift was happening, why was it the influencer marketing that you were like, this is the move? And when you were thinking about it, what was the unique value you were bringing to the space? Because we know there are a lot of marketing agencies that can be, well, when you say predatory, I think that's a fair thing to say. There are some that for sure sees the opportunity and you don't necessarily see the value on each side. But from what I researched, not the case with yourself.
No. So like I say, went from that kind of initial gym referral thing to just gymfluencers.com, where it's literally, you could go on there, it's free to use, and you can just get a discount code, and we kind of earn through affiliation. So here's a really cool product. We had a real right to try it. They wrote a proper review, and it converts really well. And that was kind of like the whole sort of, value aspect to everything. And like I say, we just spoke to so many brands who wanted to do more with UGC and understood about influencers and sponsorship. And all we ever heard was negatives, just negative after negative after negative. And I just kind of sat there and just kept noting all these things down. And during that time, when it was just the .com, we did one-offs. So maybe somebody wanted to work with somebody who we knew, and we would middleman it. And we didn't make any money. It was just kind of by the way, this person, here's this brand, a couple £100, do this, do that. And it worked well, and everyone kind of seemed happy about it. And then from there, it was basically, right, well, we'll split the sites, so .com to .agency. We'll split the Instagrams. We'll 2 separate businesses. And it was literally, I think, last December, we did that complete sort of breakaway. And the differences are, all the influencers are signed to us, not exclusively, so they can go and do whatever the hell they want with anyone they want. But they actually go onto our website, fill in a form, and pay $29.99 a year to join. Sounds weird, but that works out to £2.50 a month. We give away courses. They get loads of money in vouchers and freebies. And the reason I did that is because then we know they're real.
Yes.
We know they're serious. We know they're invested. They've paid $29.99. They're on the books, essentially. We can then basically have their rate that they set themselves. So that's the other cool, unique thing is, if they want £100 a post, they get £100 a post. We don't take any commission off that. We don't charge them any fees for that. So when a brand comes to us, so we want one person with 10,000 followers who's a bodybuilder, we can just go onto our system and give them 5 choices to choose from. If they want 100 people who are CrossFit athletes and do this, we can then go on our system and do that. Once the brand's happy, we can just set these collabs in motion instantly. It takes us less than a day to kind of say, they've agreed, there's this. All the brand then has to do is send the product. 7 days later, they get all that content for approval with unlimited edits. Once they're happy, the influencer posts, and then the big USP, which many people have followed now, but as standard, the brand owns all that content with no silly licensing fees. If they paid £100 for a post, they also get the content included. And the influencer knows that from day one, the brand knows that from day one, and it's all done in a week. And that's the real big difference here, is it's quick, it's effective, and because we don't spend all the time that other agencies do, we're about a quarter of the price of the industry average. So there's a lot of kind of like little winning points along the way that add up.
Well, and it's so important in that space to have clear expectations. I think a lot of times when people are trying to facilitate their own deals, and even sometimes from the brand side, it happens where there's a miscommunique. and it becomes a huge headache for both parties, and everyone feels as though it was unfair, and it's just a big, gigantic mess. For
Yeah.
yourself, obviously, you've done really well. How many people are in your roster, and where have you expanded to since then? Especially the thing I love is that this was a COVID-born shift, because even as COVID was happening, I was like, we're going to see some of the best. You look at the Great Depression, some of the best inventions and ideas came out of that. And I think that we're seeing the same thing. People that were forced under pressure to pivot, and a lot of creative ideas come through. So where have you headed from there?
Yeah, 100%. So with our agency in the UK, we've got just under 3,000 influencers. And for us, an influencer is somebody who can influence a sale. It's not somebody who's been on TV. We do have those people. We do have Premiership footballers. We have all of these famous influencers. But for us, and I always use this girl as an example, she's got 1,600 followers. A brand would never look at her, but we know she's got 70 online coaching clients. And if she puts a post out that she believes in a product, she will convert way more than any Love Island star ever could.
It's authentic. It is authentic. That is such a good point, because it's like the micro influencer. Their people are so engaged because they feel like they have a relationship with that person. Whereas sometimes when the status is so much bigger, it's them and us is how it feels.
And absolutely, and don't get me wrong, there's a place for the them and us.
Yep.
Like I say, we've got a very well-known Premiership footballer, 10 million followers. There's a huge reason a brand should use him.
Yes.
If they're that type of brand and they want that type of coverage and they've got that content forever, and that could be their website homepage landing, and it's worth that money. But for the majority of brands out there, the micro-influencers will always be best. And that's kind of our, the majority of who we work with. And obviously we started off in the UK. We've then done things in Dubai. We helped launch the Pure Gym in Dubai, for example, with some of our Dubai influencers. And then we've done things in the US, but literally as of yesterday, we've launched the US website for the agency.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So now it's completely separated, where, obviously with websites and development, payment forms in pounds and USD and all these kind of things, it complicates it. So it's just a subdomain, but it makes it very clear. You're in the US, you're paying USD, you're getting paid out in USD, and this is kind of how it works. And that's another thing I didn't mention about how we work with influencers is we pay out instantly as well. So brands typically take 30, 60 or 90 days. Our average payout is 6 minutes. So
wow.
We try to please everyone. So we make sure the brands pay us up front to protect paying the influencers instantly, but the influencers don't get paid until they complete. So we're somewhat like an escrow service as well, where it kind of, nobody can get hurt. If the influencer doesn't make the post, we just get somebody else to do it or give the money back to the brand. And that's kind of like a way to kind of protect everyone.
Well, I think we're going to be looking forward to the Canadian version over here.
It's funny because
we're always last.
I think in England though, and it sounds so bad of me, but when I say the US, it means the US and Canada. I know, shocking. I think that's just us stupid Brits, if you know what I mean. It's like over that side of the world. It's kind of like the way we look at it. But no, we actually do have some great Canadians on our network, and I will stop saying the US version. I'll say the US and Canada version.
You know what? We're really kind over here. And if in the Canadian way, you can just say sorry, and then we'll be like, okay, no problem.
There you go. I am very sorry.
No, that's so amazing though because it's a huge market over here. So I can imagine an extremely exciting time for your brand.
That's the thing with this business is I'm very confident in what we do. Very few negative feedbacks or issues with brands. I can think of one big issue I kind of had with the brand, but it was just because their internal team didn't communicate what the hell this deal was. It was just very, it was a bit of a mess internally there. But very, very few issues, and hoping that kind of continues, as I move into these other countries.
And we kind of started the conversation how I mentioned you do encounter sometimes from gym owners or staff, or sometimes from fellow gym goers, this, I'm just going to say, hate for the influencer or the camera in a gym space.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I do have I've taken photos in gyms, and I've been inspired by photos of people in gyms. But what's kind of your take, or what perspective would you offer those people that maybe feel a bit heightened over their presence?
Yeah, I think they probably just ran into the wrong person at the wrong time. I would be very annoyed if someone was stood in front of me the whole time whilst I was trying to work out and they were setting up a tripod in front of me and doing all of these things. There's a time and a place, and people need to be cautious of people in the gym who are not there for that. And also, I think people who like to take pictures don't understand people who don't like to be in pictures. And you get that in families, let alone gyms. So if somebody's in the gym who's not used to it and they've paid to go there and they probably go in there to improve physically, maybe improve mentally, people go there for a bit of a safe place really. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's, six girls and guys in front of them flexing in the mirror taking pictures. I mean, yeah, I get it. I think gyms need to just be cautious of who, what, and where.
And I will say one of the most brilliant things, I was in a bodybuilding gym and they actually created, because they knew so many people were training for competitions or this and that. And they actually created a dedicated area where people
Yes,
can do their social. And I'm like, that seems like the perfect, because it's like, if you want to do that, you have the space, you're kind of away from everything. And if you don't want to be a part of it, you're not going to be dealing with a camera on your
yeah.
face. And I was like, I
A lot
feel
of
like
got
more
posing
need that. Yes,
Yeah,
and it's like, put
yeah.
your hashtag on there. Exactly as you say, you're generating content for the gym's happy, the people are happy. I'm like,
And it's
we need
people's
more of
jobs.
that. Yes.
People in there aren't just influencers. Quite a lot of professional bodybuilders don't ever charge for posts or don't ever do that. But they've got a job and they're there for the love of that sort of competition. They're taking pictures because they should. And this is the very funny thing. I used to think bodybuilders were like idiots. Like I'm this big 30-stone guy thinking, why are you flexing your muscles on a stage all the time, you fool? And it's just ignorance. But
Yep.
now, like, for them to diet the way they do, for them to train the way they do, if you don't have complete admiration, for that guy with a thong on, fully tanned up to, the work they put, let them take every picture because my God, they deserve to. And they're tracking their progress, they're sending it to their coaches, the coaches are replying to it. And yeah, like actually, every time I'm in the gym now, you can spot a competitor straight away from the way they kind of move about the gym, the way they look. If they're kind of like checking in the mirror. And once upon a time, I would have thought poser, just in the sense of like traditional, you're a poser. Now I just think, God, keep going. Like you are like absolutely smashing it.
Well, and 9 times out of 10, if you ever needed advice in the gym or had a quick question or just strike up a conversation, because there is so much self-work involved to get to that level of discipline, I think you end up having some of the most inspiring, enlightened conversations. It really is a misconception.
100%. Like I would have once walked into the gym and been completely intimidated by those massive guys who are wearing oversized clothing, who are grunting on the machines, who look like they've not left the gym for a month. But you kind of like you're near them, and you can tell they kind of you want a spot, do you want to help? Why don't you just do this? And it's never like they're overstepping the mark, but the majority, just like all walks of sports on earth, they will just help you. They are just there to perform as the best they can to hit their goals, and because they're there so often, they're so comfortable. They're more than happy to help. And I think that's so true what you said. I think there are misconceptions of people posing in mirrors or acting in certain ways, but they're 100% involved. And I don't think if you went to a football training pitch and you saw that obsessed David Beckham taking free kicks every night for 6 hours like he used to, once upon a time you thought, well, what's he doing? But then he becomes the best at it. They're literally just that. They're in their zone, they're focused on it, and nothing's going to stop them.
Well, and it kind of brings up that gym intimidation factor that so many people, I mean, to be honest, I think anyone that's ever walked in a gym for the first time more than likely had to encounter that at some point.
Yeah,
Some people still feel that way when they go in, and then it's like no one leaves the workout feeling bad. You always leave the workout feeling like $1,000,000. But the
definitely.
reason why I found you, and if you don't mind me sharing, was because of a really powerful post that you put up on LinkedIn. And I was like, instantly, I DM'd you right after I saw it because I was like, this is what we need more of. People being vulnerable and being willing to be a little bit vulnerable because it's relatable. So, this is what I found from Jonathan. The shameful reason I never put my face to Gymfluencers for over a year. That fat guy owns Gymfluencers. The words I always feared hearing. The stupid sense of how can I? a once morbidly obese 30-stone wreck of a human be anything to do with a gym brand, let alone one called Gymfluencers. I hid from photos during event days. I didn't use the camera on Zoom for months. I never told people exactly what I did for a living when asked. What made me change this? Pride, meeting fantastic people, and truly standing behind the fact that Gymfluencers includes everyone of all shapes and sizes. How can I say that if I don't back it up? So the cameras turned on, the story was told, and today I'm happy to be the fat guy who owns Gymfluencers because the truth is, I was once near death. I'm still on my health fitness journey, and my company gives everything it can to those who need it. This is a business for profit brand, but my drive each day and where I pump all profits is into giving valuable information, resources, and amazing product suggestions to everyone who needs it. I absolutely so appreciated that you put that out here because this is something that on this podcast we speak so much to for so long. And I can openly admit as well, I contributed poorly to the narrative in fitness. It almost was every single post was get shredded and do this. And we didn't talk about the fact that fitness movement is about feeling strong mentally, feeling a sense of social belonging, just having the joy of movement without a specific outcome or destination. So, talk to me a little bit about that post and the feedback you received, because again, it's a vulnerable point of view to share, but it's very real.
Yeah, definitely sounded a lot more profound when you read it than when I was writing it. If I'm honest, it was just something I wrote there and then. It wasn't meant to be vulnerable or kind of all those things. I wouldn't describe myself as a vulnerable person, or I didn't feel like, I guess obviously I did feel vulnerable because I didn't want to, be all of those things. Definitely, yeah. It's a really tough one to describe when you've kind of been where I was, where I am now, and yeah. The very brief backstory is 5 years ago I was 30 stone. I was, yeah, obviously very close to the end. I could tell. I mean, I woke up one morning once and the ligaments in both my feet had gone. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get out of bed, and had a heart attack when I was 21, or a mild heart trauma, or whatever they put it down to, and basically figured it was game over. And when you're that big, you're basically disabled anyway. And I didn't want to go outside and stuff. And someone asked me why I lost the weight, and I never really had an answer until like I kind of really thought about it. And basically, I was very lucky to I've got a great mum and a great sister, and my sister gave me two fantastic nieces. And basically, I remember holding one of them or playing with one of them, and I just thought, well, shit, like if I die, that really hurts her. And that was kind of the thought of it is, and then not, my mum it would hurt, my sister would hurt, but if I, that could really mess her life up in the sense of how the hell do you explain that? So yeah, I started Googling personal trainer near me. What is protein powder? Am I allowed to take energy drinks or pre-workout because I once had a heart issue and couldn't find that much information. And again, that's kind of where a lot of this comes from.
Right.
I got very lucky. I found a personal trainer, Sarah, who trained me at 8 p.m. every night when the gym was shut because I wouldn't walk into a gym if people were there. I wore a jumper for the first 6 months, because I was ashamed or whatever. And I lost 15 stone in a year, naturally. I trained every day. I trained Christmas Day. She trained me New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Like, she wasn't letting it up. She, yes, I was paying her as a personal trainer, but I think she was all in it for me. If I look back, I don't think she really cared about the money, even though I guess the money was pretty good as an extra. And yeah, I ate the same 3 meals every day. That wasn't her advice. That was advice nobody wanted me to do. But I kind of knew that this was a year of all or nothing. And literally, I set that goal a couple of weeks in to doing it. I was like, let's just lose 15 stone. Let's lose half of me in a year. And yeah, I did it. And 15 stone, I actually got down to 14 stone. And then the pandemic hit and I put 3.5, 4 stone back on. So I'm kind of borderline unhealthy again. But I'm sure I can get it off, and I will. And I'm training every day. And yeah, that post was kind of just, I don't know why I did it. It wasn't meant to be vulnerable. It wasn't meant to get that reaction. And the reaction it got was insane. Lots of great things came out of it, including this. It was just I don't know why. I think it's just because with this, when I set Gymfluencers up, everyone was like, getting this picture. I was like, no, put your name to it. No, it'll always be faceless. But then I think as the agency launched, especially with the agency being for everyone, it's not just for athletes and people with six packs or, huge biceps or whatever. I was thinking, well, what a hypocrite I would be if I wasn't kind of singing this from, shouting it from the rooftops. So I put that post out, and yeah, it definitely changed a lot of things in my head. I think it was the first time I'd actually wrote or like thought about it. Why did I do all of this? For what? For who? Like, what's it done for me? And yeah, that was that. And it's weird. I never get like sad about these things. I never get like upset or like look back and cry or anything. I never cried when I lost the weight. I just hit the ground running and lived, and like really lived hard. I had that great year. Well, it's like 7 months before the pandemic hit, which was hilarious because you finally lose all this weight. I'm dating. I'm seeing people I've not seen for years. During that year of weight loss, I never told anyone. I just cut myself off. So I would go and meet friends 15 stone lighter without them seeing me for a year and surprising them with it. So had a really great time. Pandemic hit. Luckily, met my fiance and everything later that year, and all worked out.
Your intention wasn't to do it to garner a reaction necessarily from people. You were just being open and you were sharing. But as I say, as somebody that, I watch the industry really closely, and I'm seeing the messaging shift, which is so very positive, because at the end of the day, I know it's actually, the statistics are very similar in the UK, but inactivity is a huge issue that we have.
Yeah.
And it's really just about getting people to celebrate movement in any capacity that feels good. But it feels like there's so many barriers for people. And truthfully, the gym industry for so long contributed to that, because there was only one narrative that was kind of shared and only one narrative that was shown. And that's changing. And I'm like, it's voices like yours too, to be like, I feel good and this changed my life. And wasn't about physical appearance at that point. Yeah. It's about health.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing you said there, it is changing, but I feel, and I maybe shouldn't say this because it is a bit harsh. Like that post, and I did a following one later saying this is an open message to everyone on my network. And as you can imagine, my network is all gym owners, PTs, brands, supplements, people who know people. Can we list free gym passes on Gymfluencers? I'll pay for them. If you want to charge me £10 per day pass for 100, I'll pay for them. Or if you want to give them, just get one person to gym once for free. Give them an intro. Cost them nothing to do. And we do that on our website anyway. It's just, again, I have to email 16,000 gyms, blah, blah, blah. I said, or if you're an online coach, you can list for free on our website. Again, we do that. We've got a few hundred on. But then I was like, well, could you put like a free ebook download or like do like a free call or something? Or if you're a supplement brand, maybe give a voucher or do something. I got one DM off that.
Interesting.
And I think that's the sad thing is I know gym managers and owners saw that of big gym chains, of little gyms, of whatever. And I do kind of sit there thinking, I don't expect anything. Like I would have lost money on it. I would have spent money. Like it's not for me, but I do think like just get people in your gym. Mm-hmm. Just give somebody a chance, because sadly now people aren't going to gym not just because they're unhealthy or scared of it. It's because they probably don't have £10 or £50 a month. There are gyms, there are great gyms that are $12.99 a month and they're 24/7, but some people still can't afford that, or maybe they can afford it, but they're scared to join because they've not been yet. So give them it for free for 1 hour, one pass. Just let them walk in your gym, walk them around, just let them have a look. So I think that's kind of on my mission now, is to kind of talk to gyms again, go through that kind of email each and every one, go to more expos and just say, I just want your word that I can list a free gym pass once per person per lifetime. Can we do something? I know if I owned a gym, I would do it, not because of my mission, but because I think it's a great business idea anyway. Give someone a free
the ripple effect.
Yeah, like they'll come in, they might then sign up to £1,000 or £2,000 a year membership. They might tell 2 people, or because you just said here's something for free that costs you nothing, essentially. So yeah, I hope more people are up for doing bigger things, and it does actually make me. I do kind of sit here and I think I've opened like lots of little businesses around this, where like the agency and products are coming and stuff. I do keep thinking maybe I'll just open up a gym and do it like for free. Like, is there a way that like I could do a non-profit gym Like,
Ah.
surely there is a way
Oh, I'm
because
sure you'd figure it out by the sounds of you.
yeah, and I was just sat there thinking, like, yeah, it's a huge thing to do, but there's lots of gyms shutting down. There's lots of spaces that are there. People already have equipment. If there's just a way to, to do it, I know the NHS spend billions on less good things for people. What if there was a deal to go with the NHS?
Well, I don't know if you ever read some of the like I'm not as familiar with the UK legislation, but I know that there's movements as well with like the physical activity minister and things like that. But when you look at the cost of like chronic disease in relation to lack of physical activity, it's mammoth. Like the
Oh,
healthcare
it's
costs are
crazy.
massive. So, and then when you look
Crazy.
at the change that could happen if you got even a tiny percentage more people introduced to physical activity or integrating it back into their lifestyle, the savings are mammoth. So the
Yeah.
math is really all there.
It's so true. And you know what? I've never told anyone this, but before I lost all of this weight through going to the gym, a few months before then, I'd been speaking to a doctor and they were talking about getting me a gastric bypass or a gastric band, whatever it's called. I was thinking, well, that probably sounds like a good idea at this point because, I wasn't even thinking about getting into a gym. I was too scared. And I went to, it was like a talk for it, like a meeting, basically. I think there was 20 of us in the room and you listened to what it was. And then if you were happy, you'd go on to the next stage to maybe get it and all these kind of things. And I sat down there for 10 minutes and I left. I just said, sorry, this isn't for me. I went. But I was kind of thinking there, like, you're doing all of this but it just seems such like a drastic move to get like an operation. And for some people it'll work, and I know it does work. But I read all the things of you put weight on quickly after it, and whatever it might be, or just the fact you get an operation where someone's going into your stomach. I mean, not for me. But yeah, I was just thinking, I wonder what would have just happened if they were like to get to that stage. Those 20 people have to go to the gym for a month. And
Right?
if they truly can't do it, if they truly are too unhealthy or it's not in their psyche or whatever, but like just surely the first step before putting people in a room to be like, do you want a gastric bypass is, do you want to try going to the gym on us for
Yeah.
very low cost? Because surely that meeting day cost way more for 20 people than it would to get them into a
Without
gym for an hour.
question. Without
They have to
question.
hire a room, they have to hire a person, they have to do this. And then I assume each gastric bypass costs 10, 20, 30,000 pounds to NHS to perform. And then the aftercare, I was just, yeah, it just wasn't a room I wanted myself to be in.
Well, everything that you've achieved up to this point is because you decided, yes, I'm going to do this. And again, in life, it's often a lot easier to say, no, I'll stay here. I may not be comfortable here, but I'm familiar with here, which
Yeah.
often we get alluded to thinking is the comfortable option. But because of this, you've created success not just for yourself, but for many other individuals out of a pure place. When you look back at this whole Gymfluencer journey starting, or perhaps that first step in the gym where you looked around and you were kind of like, these people motivate me and I want to provide a platform. How does it feel to look at where you're at now?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's one of those things where everyone's like, where you're at now, you're successful or whatever. Not the truth. Every day's a grind. Everything's hard. There's, terrible accountants who I'm having to, change over, and there's tax bills to pay, and there's the list of 50 things here to do after this. And, the cash flow will always be a struggle or whatever it might be. But I do pinch myself in the fact of I have all these websites that everyone's on all day. I can go on analytics now and there'll be like 200 people on the website right now looking at things that we put up. I'm really proud of the systems we kind of developed. I've got lots of writers. Like we've got like a really good sort of content sheet, and the agency has been plugged into other niches now. So it's not just influencers; it's pets and it's family things and
Good
such
for
as it's a
you.
good
That's so
system.
smart. Take the formula
Um,
and
someone approached me for it, and I thought that makes sense, and we'll do that. And you like say products can come out of this, and yeah, it's an amazing situation. And to be honest, I some of the brands we work with, I love working with startups that nobody's heard of. That's always cool. But like some of my first clients were like Lululemon, The Body Shop, HelloFresh, Alphalete, like Vital, like amazing companies, and I'm sort of saying, I'm, running your influencer marketing, or I'm doing your exposure, or it's fantastic. And yeah, for the career I used to be in, and to walk away and, work this hard for a good few years. And yeah, it's amazing. And we've done nothing. I do say that I've done 1% of what I should have done. Still never paid for an ad. Still never done a Google word. Still never done, don't have a proper team. It's just great. I love it. I literally love every day of work. And yes, at 3 o'clock every day, I get a bit stressed and a bit tired and overwhelmed sometimes. But every morning, I'm excited to do it. And I honestly think that is the weirdest feeling, because I never thought I'd get that back. When I was 15, I had an eBay business. I sold things. I was just loving it, hustling away merrily, young, fearless, making money. Now it's like, oh, and I say it to my nieces and my stepdaughter, I was 35 when I realized what I wanted to do. And that was Gymfluencers. And I truly hope, if it's not a giant exit one day where I can, ride off into the sunset with my family and enjoy life, I truly hope I work in this company forever.
Well, I always love to leave people on a little either nugget of wisdom or a quote you like. So, what would be some final lasting words to leave us with that could fuel up our day and perhaps take some of that spark of inspiration that you've got there?
Yeah, so my favorite quote of all time is the simplest and one of the dumbest, because it's from the end of a film called Layer Cake. And he basically says, have a plan and stick to it. And it's always stuck in my head for 20 years since I've seen that film. Now, the funny thing was, he did die straight after he said that by getting shot by someone when all of his
minor technicality.
Minor technicality, but just have a plan and stick to it. And don't get me wrong, my plan changes every day. But if you know something is good, just work and work and work. The hours I do and the time, the jobs I juggle and everything, it's for the purpose of just getting it done. And when it's done, there'll be something else to do. Don't get me wrong. I'll never be sitting back and reaping the rewards. But yeah, just set that plan out and do it. And honestly, if you're in a job you hate, and I know it's hard, like you say about money and all that, walk away. And I always say, people always talk about jobs and stuff. Everyone you know's got a job, right?
Yep.
So why wouldn't you just get another job? We all just assume, because we hear about unemployment levels or whatever. But if you're someone who works hard, who's got some, great attributes, just literally walk out your job now and just go find another job. And hopefully you're lucky enough to have parents or siblings or friends who, if it really goes wrong and in a few months' time you haven't got a job, you can kind of rely on them. But just literally pull the plug. Working for toxic people, working with toxic people, there's stuff out there. Go on LinkedIn, message 50 people and say, your social page looks crap. I can do this post for free. Let's see how well it performs. If you like it, then it costs $100 per whatever. Just work, just get it done.
Jonathan, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time. And as I say, those little sparks of just putting it out there when you don't mean to be vulnerable, it really does have an impact. So I appreciate people like yourself that are just willing to lay it out there, and the hustle, all of it is super inspiring.
For me to get an email from you and say, let's do this, and for you to do this for other people and level up the industry, thank you for doing it as well.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Chrissy Van. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.